Good morning and welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, all the places at Hawk Blogger. Today you can find me here with one of the best players to ever put on a Seahawks uniform. Matt Hasselbeck once again comes back, graces us with his presence. We're going to see how often we can do this over the course of this season. Matt's a busy man, but he's come back today. And Matt, man, it's good to see you. How you doing?
I came back even though I found out you were booing the heck out of me in 2001 with the I heard you were leading the Dilfer chants. Now, I thought it was Trent Dilfer leading the Dilfer chants. I blamed him for all those years, waving the towel on the bench like he was Phil McConkey. But no, it's kind of a joke, but not really. But yes, but
I was like, I got a little nervous for a second. It's like, how does he know I was booing him?
I think you said it. I think I heard you say it. Like as I was signing off, like you sign off a Zoom. Like we're not on Zoom, but like you sign off a Zoom. It's like end meeting for all or whatever.
Yeah,
or leave the meeting. And I'm like pressing it, and you were like, "Oh, that was really nice of him." I used to just rip him in 01. I was like, click. I was like, wait, what? I'd love to hear the rest of that. But then I thought about it. I was like, no, but like there's probably only 3 people that weren't. It was like my mom, my wife, maybe two people, maybe Jim Zorn, maybe 3, so I'm totally playing. It's I think like we talked about a little bit last time, all these things that happen in your journey, as a quarterback for sure, like they help make you who you need to be. And, I think like the 01 season for me was at times very, very difficult for a lot of different reasons. And, I think it got me to a point that I needed to get to be like, skin like an armadillo, water off a duck's back. Like you needed to get there. And I don't know how else you get there besides like really kind of going through it sometimes. And so, yeah, it's all good stuff.
See the early like seeds of what became the tree of your personality on the field back then, because you would refuse to let a play die. You would spin around in the backfield like 10 times because you're like, okay, I'm not throwing it away. I'm going to find somebody. I'm going to make something out of this play. And the kind of Brett Favre-esque like instincts were there, and finding that, like watching that, knowing what Holmgren wanted to happen, and just seeing your personalities like clash and then eventually fuse was honestly one of the most educational things for me as a fan. Like if you can go from that like dissonance to that symphony over the course of a few years, like you can't really write someone out so quickly.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of it is like you got to match up what your brain wants to do and what your body can do. I had to go through that a lot. But also, I think there's a great lesson in, like just trusting a process. And, Mike would always scream at me, like, you need to walk before you can run. And like for literally like 6 months, I was like, what the heck does that even mean? Like, what does that even mean? And like, I just would get like angry about it instead of like trying to figure out what the heck it meant. And yeah, but anyway, good times. Although we did do a scrimmage at Husky Stadium one time years later, and I walked in there and it was like, oh man, this place, bad memories here. Like this.
Yeah.
I've exercised those demons. I actually worked out there all during the lockout, and it became like a friendly place again. But
I think my only positive memory of the season there was Sean Alexander running for like 1,000 yards in one game. Like that was about it. That was not a fun.
That was a good one. I think it was like a Monday night or a Sunday night game, and there's a great story to go with that someday. But anyway,
we'll get there.
Yeah,
we'll get there. Well, Matt, we're here at week 1 of the season, and the Seahawks are going to be playing the 49ers. Got a lot to chat with you about these things. I got some sound from Mike Macdonald to play for you and get your reactions too.
Can I just ask you though? It's like week 1, but it's like this weird week 0. Like it used to be like back in the day when we played 16 games, like there were cuts and then you had like a day and a half of like freedom. And now it's like last night, I think like everyone in the world was watching Bill Belichick and, UNC go against TCU because like we're all like Pavlov's dog, like ready for NFL football. Like, well, wait, where was it? Like it just like feels like this extra week. It's almost like the NFL is just deciding like, yeah, negotiate all you want, but we're playing 18 games and we're just setting the schedule now. And then like college football can have their time for now, but like this is really going to be week 1 of the NFL from now on. So like I was sort of going through like a withdrawal this weekend, and I'm sure the NFL players and coaches are like, dude, shut up. Like we had like a bye week before the season started. Like let us have it.
Yeah, I actually had the same reaction. I'm glad you said that. And Ray Roberts, who's a friend of the show, was like, dude, you didn't play. Your body doesn't want, your body doesn't care that there's this extra week. And I'm like, I'm not saying I don't get it from a player's perspective, but it seems like pretty obvious that the NFL is going to do it and that this is just a dead week until they decide to do it. I don't think it's an if. I think it's just a matter of when. And
Yeah.
you know,
Well, as a player, like he's completely right, but it's also like I remember being in school and just being like, your summer's over. Are you excited for senior year or whatever? Like, yeah, I'm excited for senior year, but like at the same time, my summer's over. Like, I'm excited to go back to school. Excited for my sport to start. I'm excited for whatever, but like, man, like I know the grind that's about to happen, and that's what it's like for an NFL coach, for an NFL player. But don't worry, the NFL's coming. We don't have to wait till Sunday. It'll be a Thursday night start, and for everybody, week one is super, super exciting. You start your game planning on your week one opponent, like honestly, like back in May. Like you start talking about the May, like they drop the cards for like, this is the 49ers defense. This is number 50. It's like, all right. I mean, we're going to do every other game in 6 days of prep. We're going to really start talking about week one, like right now. Is that how we're really going to do it? And for most teams, it is how they do it.
that was exactly where I was going next. Is like week one seems like a very weird week for the NFL season, both in game prep, but then the game itself. It seems like no one quite knows. You don't have the film on what people are doing, at least this year. So how does it differ from a normal game prep? And you just touched on one aspect, but like, how is it different that first week of the season? Even the 2005 squad, if I remember right, the first week was in Jacksonville, and maybe that was a loss or maybe a close win. I can't remember. But
we lost. We got spanked.
That's what I thought, right?
Yeah,
right?
I think it's the teams, the coaching staffs that do a great job in film evaluation and game planning, I think struggle in week one. Like I always thought that about the Patriots. I remember when the Patriots got smoked by the Buffalo Bills, like 31-0, and then won the Super Bowl. And everyone's like, how does that even happen? Like, because they're so good at game planning you. And it's literally a blind date. Like you have no idea what they're going to do. Your team's different, but their team's different. Like everything's different. They can hide everything. For all the preseason games, they could be a completely, we always do this. And then the whole thing was a huge setup. They don't care about their preseason record. The whole thing's a setup. So you're in there, doing analytics and stats and formation studying, and you're actually helping them set you up. It's like a big Trojan horse deal, So like, no, that's a thing. I also think climate is kind of a thing sometimes, like not for every week, obviously, but like just you mentioning that Jacksonville game. I remember how ridiculously humid it was at the time. We were training in Cheney, Washington, very, very hot, but just dry. And we go down there and play in Jacksonville, and they made us wear, we wore dark helmets and we wore dark jerseys, and we were just like gassed. Like I just remember being on the sideline being like, we're over here basking in the sun. They're over there in the shade. Like they've got misters, we might have even had misters. I don't even know, but it was brutal. And, they I don't think they were the better team than us, but like they certainly, I mean, they literally spanked us that day. It was a bad look. And, so like every time you go into a week one thing, a lot of it is like the uncertainty. Like you're hoping and praying that like some of the rookies can perform. You're hoping and praying that a free agent guy that you brought in can gel. And you just don't know about that stuff. So a lot of questions going to week one. And if I was a gambler, I'd sit week one out just a little bit and go all in on week two.
Yeah, well, I'm curious now that you're also coaching and you're seeing it from that side. How has your prep for the first game of your season, which is now come and gone, like how have you seen that adjustment made for you when you're kind of getting the guys ready and getting yourself ready?
I mean, I used exactly what I said. I used it to our advantage last year. Our biggest game, in theory, our rival game was week 2. And so week 1, I did like all Alex Gibbs zone schemes. Like it's all I did. Like it's all we did in the first game. We didn't run one gap scheme like power, counter, no pulling guards ever. And it was all just like, zone scheme. Everybody left, everybody to the right. And, that kind of stuff. And then week 2, we came out and basically we became who we really are. We love to pull guards. We love to pull tackles. We love it. And, down somebody around kind of stuff. And so I don't know. I mean, it was 28-0 at halftime, so it wasn't nothing. But I think it was a pretty good idea. But like that's just week one, like you kind of that's like week one, week two, like who you can be. So, but I know that there's gamesmanship like that. For me to do that, it's only because I heard coach after coach after coach talk about that's what we were going to do. People talk about the Beastquake game a lot. Like, well, how come you guys didn't run power more if Marshawn Lynch wanted to run power? Because we were not a power team. Mm-hmm. We were a zone scheme team. This is what Clint Kubiak's doing now in Seattle. We are a zone scheme team. And to just keep them honest with your zone scheme, you run nakeds and bootlegs and power every once in a while.
Well, this is not just week one. This is a divisional game, and it's a game against a team that are really a rival for the Seahawks. Now, one of the things I always remember is, if I'm remembering correctly, Mike Holmgren wasn't shy about saying division games matter more. Like, you got to win your division first. You got to win these division games. Pete Carroll was like, every game's the same. Mike Macdonald.
What's he'd say? No, he would say, what's the biggest game? And the answer was the next one. Like, it didn't matter. Whatever the next one was.
So I'm kind of curious. Obviously, like for fans, it's a big deal. Like, this is a heated rivalry. There was a time, the 2013, the LOB era, you had Richard Sherman and Doug Baldwin who had Jim Harbaugh ties. Pete Carroll had a little bit of Jim Harbaugh ties. So there was something there. But does it matter? Like, do the players really do rivalries really exist anymore in the NFL? I'm kind of curious your thoughts there.
Yeah, 100%. And like you mentioned, Legion of Boom and Jim Harbaugh. I mean, you're just thinking Richard Sherman. Like Richard Sherman played for him at Stanford. I think he was a wide receiver there. He wasn't drafted by the 49ers when Harbaugh could have. So I don't know that it was as much as of like, I don't like the Niners. It was like, I got a chip on my shoulder from you, not picking me or not seeing me a certain way. Like that's a real thing. I mean, and I think Pete Carroll did a great job of like tapping into that stuff. But listen, like, when I got to the Seahawks, we were the AFC West. The 49ers were not a rivalry. We were like a fun preseason game. And the NFL, did conference realignment and division realignment and tried to make it a geographical kind of like competition, rivalry deal. And I think it worked. I think there's a lot of Seahawk fans in San Fran. I think there's a lot of Niners fans in Seattle. Kind of like the two cities aren't that dissimilar. And I just think, like the Niners were really good early on. And I go back to the Monday night game when T.O. with the Sharpie catches the deep ball on Sean Springs and goes into the luxury box right there and grabs a Sharpie, I believe, from the financial advisor of Sean Springs and T.O. that they shared, and rips the Sharpie out and then autographs the ball. It's like that, though, moments like that, and there have been many more, create a rivalry. And it's maybe not your grandfather's rivalry, but it's your rivalry. And they build on each other. And so like there definitely have been those moments. And like even for me as a player, we go in the next day and Mike Holmgren, who's like, very powerful, intimidating figure, breaks down in like crying, like in tears. Like I'd never seen him cry. Never. And he like gets choked up to the point that he cannot talk. I think the only other time that I think I remember him getting choked up was maybe like right after 9/11. And like, so this is like a powerful moment where he's getting choked up talking about, I'm teaching you football. I'm teaching you X's and O's. But I hope like when your football days are long gone, I hope the thing you remember from me and my coaching staff is, like the respect of the game and like respect of like have fun, cut it loose, like all that stuff. But like just in general, respect of like what we're doing, what we're really doing here and why we're doing it. And that affected him. Like I think for the most of the guys on the team, it was like, yeah, it was a pretty sick route. It was a great touchdown, whatever. But it affected him. And that 49er rivalry was real to him. Like that's where he was from. That's where he started his coaching journey in the NFL. Like, it didn't matter if he was coaching for the Packers or the Seahawks. Everybody knew like, whoa, this is 49er week. Like don't even stand near Mike Holmgren. And, so like in that moment, like, again, for me, like you ask if it matters to the players, for every single guy in that locker room and every coach, like that from now on, whenever we played that team, like that was in our minds, like there's something there. And so like, yeah, like they have, Seahawks fans could probably go through the list of like, I remember this game. I remember that game. Different coaches now, different players now, but the fan bases are the same. The franchises are the same. So they're forever linked. So this is a great week 1 matchup. And a lot of teams get intimidated to go in to Seattle and play. And the Niners and specifically Brock Purdy, they've kind of just been like, yeah, whatever, like it's almost like, shoot, like why aren't you nervous like everybody else? But they seemingly haven't been.
They haven't. Brock Purdy has not lost in Lumen Field. As a matter of fact, I think he's 3-0. And I asked Mike Macdonald yesterday about the fact that the Seahawks are 2.5-point underdogs at home in week 1. And you're going to hear the tail end of my question where I tell him that's only the 3rd time that will have been true in the last 40 years. And check out Mike's reaction as he hears this.
It's great for him.
You guys are currently 2.5-point underdogs. That's only the 3rd time that's happened for a week 1 home opener in the Seahawks last 40 years. How do you decide
last 40?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you decide when to use that information with the team and when to just ignore it?
I think you're just, look, you know how we roll at this point. We got to focus on us going out and playing Seahawk football from the first snap to the last. That really is our focus. If you try to making it too complicated, you get all out of whack. At some point, yeah, there's things to have motivation material, bulletin board material, things like that. Probably keep it in house when we use it, but I think you can tell it's just kind of like whatever to us right now.
So Matt, you saw his reaction there, and then you heard him kind of talk about, well, yeah, like there's sometimes, but generally we just want to do what we do. How much do you think motivational bulletin board stuff is useful? And how much do you think that that's a distraction and just gets you set up to maybe treat that game differently than you should?
That was amazing, by the way. Great question. It brought back so many memories for me too, because as players, especially back in the day, like you had no idea what a point spread was. Like you were just so trained to like stay away from that. Like you had no idea. And I think coaches don't really have any idea. And then like sometimes when like the coach would give you the motivation, like I'm with Mike, like big time there. I feel like sometimes I'd be so locked in my playbook, like one play at a time. We're going to do this. It's about us. Here's what they do, but it's about us. And then like you go off with some like, motivational thing about like, can you believe what the announcer said? Or can you believe what the point spread is? And it's just like, it's like outside. It's outside the white lines of what matter. Reminds me of like the movie Hoosiers, where he's like, how long's the court? How wide's the court? And like, that's what it is for a football player. Like, doesn't matter how big the stadium is or how small the stadium or how full or whatever. Like, it's all about what happens between the white lines. Like we affect that. And, I just like that. That's his mindset. But I would also say being a head coach, you have to come up with like new stuff all the time. And I think they've run out of stuff to say. And like, I could see him when you said that, like, whoa, last 40 years, like, I'm gonna use that one. That's pretty crazy. Like that's a wild, and it is. That's a pretty wild stat. And I don't know how they do those point spreads, but they seem like they're always. They're right on. So this sounds like this is going to be a very, very close game. And they say a game of inches. Usually it comes down to like 1 or 2 plays that you could have made, would have made, should have made, but like who makes that play? That's going to be the difference. And who wins the game.
Well, Matt, you say, these guys generally are right or close to their point spreads. Well, the last 2 times that it's happened in the past 40 years, the Seahawks won both of those games. The last time was against Russell Wilson returning with the Broncos in 2022. They were 6.5-point underdogs and they lost. And the time before that, there's a certain guy on this show that was in that game. 2010, Pete Carroll's first game
Niners
at home against
the Niners,
San Francisco 49ers, and you guys smoked them.
And I got a terrible, I don't even know if I should tell you this, but
I want to hear it.
I don't even know. I think there was an interception early in the game, and there's some controversy whether someone gave our first 15 plays away on that game.
Oh.
Yeah, there's some scars here. I don't know if I'm ready to do all this, like
Okay. Okay. That's up to you.
but no,
man.
like that. Listen, that was a big game, and that I'll talk about that game briefly. But like, that was an epic win. Like, that was an epic win. Pete was coming in, and everything was different, and it was just kind of a rebuild, kind of a mindset. And to win it felt like, oh shoot, like, maybe we don't have to be a full rebuild. Maybe we can, especially for me, an older guy, like maybe we can win right now, which is like the goal of every player, like every veteran player for sure. Like, I want to win every game right now, like right now, not kick guys to the curb because we're trying to go younger, cheaper. Probably true in most businesses. Like, that was kind of a tough thing. And not everybody was with us. Like, some people were very, very disgruntled about the situation. So like, we didn't really all the way come together. Obviously, if we think people are giving away plays, like
Wow.
for their own benefit, like, so like there's, like, I don't know. But what I do want to talk about is the other game when Russell Wilson came back to town in Denver. And really, that was like, Geno played so well that night. Like, the fans were like all into it. And I just remember that entire offseason, it was like, oh shoot, week 1, Monday night or whatever night. And like, Russell's coming to town. Like, oh, this is gonna be so hard, whatever. And that night, I thought Geno played like Russell. Like, he looked so much like him. And it was almost like the 12s. They were just like, you know what? Like, this team, this organization, this city, like, we're bigger than one person. And like, we're all in it. And it was like, literally, it was like 12-11 that night. And I don't know, just Geno was like, he was awesome that night. And, he had the great quote,
Yeah.
whatever, what'd he say?
I
didn't write back.
and I didn't write back.
Yeah, it was so good. I mean, it was so good. So like, and then listen, that Niners game that we played in, like, I ran like, I think like 30 yards to run a 1-yard touchdown. Like, it was like, I remember some of the plays.
I was gonna tell you did have a rushing touchdown in that game.
Yeah, like, it was like a half a yard, but I think I felt like I ran like 30 yards to get like half a yard. And I dove at that and like barely got the pylon. And literally, like, if they had like reviewed it, like, I don't know if it would have been like conclusive. Like, it was like anyway, it was a lot of, yeah. So, but to your point about the spreads, this game like could be, an epic game, because I think those were two pretty epic games. Those were two like really, really, like, I don't know if instant classics, but like, they were pretty sick. And so like, if we get a week 1 game like that, that'd be pretty nuts.
There's so much I want to ask you about. I'm gonna promise to keep you our time this time, but one of the things I asked Coach Macdonald about yesterday was what makes a great defensive play caller. I'm not going to play you a sound because it'll take too much time, but I'm curious from your perspective, when you were playing the position, when you're an offensive play caller, what are the things that that separates one defensive play caller from another? What are the things that makes it hard to go against one, DC, and another you're like, oh no, I feel pretty good at going against this guy?
Two things: gray areas and unpredictability. Like, unpredictability is obviously like a big one, like, I feel like there were certain D coordinators that we would go up against and I'd be like, I got you. Like, I know how you were trained. I know how you would think, you're not a blitz guy, but when we get between the 29-yard line and the 34-yard line, you're bringing it. Because you think that that's like the threshold where like we're either punting or, it's field goal punt, like the little things like that. Or there's there's just like these little nuggets that you got on guys and they don't change ever. Like, they're just like old grumpy men who like they're so stubborn. You're like not changing. You don't care. You're bringing the house when it's prevent. It should be prevent, or you're playing prevent when you shouldn't, things like that. But I think, like the next level of it is gray areas. And so like, as a quarterback, we have these rules like, hey, if the safety's at 7 yards, then this is your rule. Okay, well, what if he's at 9 and he's sprinting downhill? Like, that's actually worse than him sitting at 7. Now what do? My rule is this. So like great defensive coordinators know what my rules are as an offense, and they just give us uncertainty. Is it press technique or is it bail? It's like, well, it's kind of in between the two. That's one of the things, the great things that the Legion of Boom did, and it really set the league on fire, is that the style of play, like, was it a single high safety? It was like, yeah, Earl's in the deep, but he's not in the middle. And Cam, he's not all the way down, but he's so stinking big. And and then our corners, they've got their butts to the sideline and eyes on the quarterback at all times. And they're long and they're kind of running away. Like, it just was like a lot of gray. And it's just, it screws with you. Like, you got plays you want to hang your hat on. And now you're like, I don't know. I'm not really sure. So that's what I think the best defenses do.
I'm curious, like, also when you get defenders, there are defensive players who go off script and freelance, and there's defensive players who are disciplined. And you as a quarterback, were you hoping for them to be one or the other?
Yeah, no, I certainly like disciplined guys, but that was one of the great things that I thought, like, using Pete Carroll as an example. He coached Troy Polamalu in college. And so, like, when we played Troy when he was at the Steelers, or we play Ed Reed when he was at Baltimore, we played Sean Taylor in Washington, like, they were freed up to do whatever they wanted. Junior Seau, when he was with the Chargers, that one guy could go be a playmaker. JJ Watt was that way. Like, that guy had freedom to, like, play outside the box. And I would say Chad Brown, for like old school Seahawks fans, like, at times he had that freedom. And then at times he played it in a defense where, like, he didn't really have that freedom. And, like, you're not allowed to blitz when you have the back end man. And, like, and like Troy and Earl Thomas and some of those guys would do that. So, but Pete would say to Earl, like, go cut it loose, make a play. If you're supposed to be the deep safety and it's an in cut, go make the interception. Now, like, what you got to live with is every once in a while, someone's going to throw a post over your head in cover 3 when the book says deeper than the deepest, So as a quarterback, no, you don't love that. But I think what I learned to do, I learned to just, like, get it in my head. Like, this guy is being told, Troy Polamalu, Earl Thomas, he's being told he can do whatever he wants to do. And once you sort of, like, just live in that and recognize that, I think it's kind of like, okay, now at least I know what the opponent is. And I think some DBs struggle going up against some quarterbacks. Some quarterbacks today, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, they're not really worried. They've got enough cachet. They've got enough money in the bank. They've got enough, like, MVPs, whatever. Like, they're kind of like, late down the middle. Yeah. Who's going to yell at me? Not my coach, like, I'll be here longer than him. There's a little bit of that. And so, like, if you get that in your mindset, I think it's easier to defend these guys or go at them, on the flip side.
Last question I have for you, Matt. I'm talking about Hasselbeck, and there's a big matchup in this game. There's a lot of big matchups, but one of them is going to be Nick Bosa, who's one of the best pass rushers in the game, and probably Abe Lucas. A lot of times Nick Bosa comes from the left side against the right tackle. You had an experience where I feel like you got to see the importance of a right tackle, whether it was Chris Terry joining and what it did for your offense, Sean Locklear, what it did. Like, those guys don't get as much conversation as the left side, but how important can it be for a right tackle to solidify that side of the line?
Yeah, there's no movie called Front Side. The front side. In fact, that we play Friday night in Memphis, and we're playing Briarcrest, and that's the school that's based on the movie The Blind Side, or where Michael Orr went to school. But no, there's no movie for that, and your pass protections aren't set up for that. That's mostly why people like a right-handed quarterback. Your best pass protector in theory is on the left side. You're blocking with the extra back to your left side more than you are to the right side. And, it's a problem. I mean, Michael Strahan played on the right side. That was a real hard thing for us when we played the New York Giants and Strahan was on the right. We had to flip a lot of our plays. A lot of our favorite plays, we just would have to flip them. And, I've maybe I mentioned to you, but like, it's like brushing your teeth with the opposite hand. It's like not impossible. It just makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's just like, this isn't I'm not in my groove. And that's what sometimes happens when a great pass rusher is on the right instead of the left. So yeah, that right tackle, it's very important. Sometimes ignorance is bliss too. Like you have no idea that the guy's almost near you on the blind side. So you're like, you're locked into what you're supposed to be locked into. But as a quarterback, the famous quote, I was seeing ghosts, like stuff like that. Like that is a thing that a lot of quarterbacks are told in quarterback meetings. Like, don't see ghosts. That means like, don't see blitzers that aren't there. The other thing is like, don't feel pressure that's like really not there. Trust me, as a quarterback, when you're in the pocket, you hear every grunt, every, like knock of the helmets, like you feel that the hand fighting, you hear the collision, you hear the back next to you, like it's right there, like that natural sound. It's like it's in your ear as you're looking downfield. And then your biggest fear sometimes as a quarterback isn't necessarily being hit, it's someone hitting your arm as you're throwing, or it's following through with your hand and dislocating a finger. Like, so like, yeah, it's an important thing. And the right tackle does get overlooked. But I mean, it is in some ways even more important that you do a good job there. And, chipping with a back on your right side was my least favorite thing. Like I would say, listen, please no chipping. I'll get the ball out quicker. I don't want an extra person standing in here. And, every quarterback's probably different, but, it's a matchup, and I can promise you when the TV companies and like TV production crews come in, there's going to be one camera dedicated to that matchup the whole day. And if you do a great job every single time as an offensive lineman, except for 3 times, you had a bad day. It's an impossible ask. So that's where scheme, I think, comes into play, and being really, really intentional about how to attack a great pass rusher, because there are some things you can do, and some people know how to do that well, and other people they don't respect how hard it is to block.
Matt, excellent stuff as always. Good luck to you and your team this week. Hopefully bounce back game for you guys, and we'll catch up again later.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. See you, man.
All right. That is Matt Hasselbeck, one of the best to ever put on a Seahawks uniform. And yeah, I might have hassled him when he first got here, but he's also the only quarterback in Seahawks history whose jersey I own. So, you got to take the ups and the downs, and there's a lot of great stuff there from Matt, and a lot of great stuff. We'll get maybe over the course of the season, we'll get a little bit more of the stories that he does not want to share about guys giving away plays, giving away scripted plays. That's an interesting one. I'm going to have to think about who that would be and why it would be. But the hope is that we're going to get Matt on every week during the season. We're going to see like Matt's schedule super busy, so that might not be realistic, but something he and I have talked about, and we're going to hopefully get that done. It's kind of a Hasselbeck Tuesday, because not only did we get to talk to Matt today, but this evening, 5:00 p.m. Pacific time, we are going to do the Seahawks Collective, which has Annabelle Hasselbeck, as well as Michael Sean Dugar and Rob Staten, where we will talk about this upcoming season and upcoming game against the 49ers tomorrow night. Wednesday night, Evan Hill, Jeff Simmons, and I will do a Real Hawk Talk game preview of the Seahawks versus 49ers tomorrow morning. I'll be doing my tail of the tape. Now, tail of the tape the first week of the season is really kind of a pain in the ass, because you don't have any games to really look back on. So it's just looking at like where the team's strengths and weaknesses were a year ago, and we'll kind of go into that. So I'll have a little bit of data to share there. We've got more stuff coming up later. And then Friday morning, I think it's going to be 8 a.m. And I'm going to try to get our times a little bit more, reliable once we get into the season rhythm here. Dave Bowling, Mike Sando back with me to do a Friday roundtable. I think those guys are fantastic, and really looking forward to catching up with them. So lots and lots and lots of great stuff coming. And one of the coolest things is, if you haven't already heard, we're teaming up with Sleeper this year all season long. And if you haven't heard of the Sleeper app, here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. If you're doing fantasy football, it's absolutely the right time to download it. But this year, millions of users enjoy playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers real-time updates, visualization on all the stats, has a news feed, so you get updates. Sometimes my stuff even shows up on there. You can follow your favorite teams, players, and it's not just football. You can follow the NBA, Major League Baseball. The Mariners are not making it easy to follow them lately. So make sure you download the #1 app for fantasy sports that you're going to find out there, and use code Hawks. Use promo code Hawks, and you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Lots of cool stuff, and use code Hawks to get that $100 match when you make your first deposit. So lots of fun coming ahead, and I will probably tomorrow go through some of my picks on Sleeper. We'll talk about some of the player. There's some really interesting over-unders for different players, yardage totals they're going to have, touchdowns, yes or no. So we'll go through that probably tomorrow and have some fun doing that. But for now, check out the Sleeper app. You will not regret it. All right. So there was some fun stuff that we heard yesterday from Mike Macdonald. I want to play a couple more clips. This is a clip I was going to play for Matt Hasselbeck, but we ran out of time. So I didn't want to go over again, even though he was fine with it. I try to really honor my guest time, especially Matt, who's super busy and got a bunch of high school athletes to coach. So this was the question I asked Mike Macdonald last year. I would kind of get into, hey, there's the Mike Macdonald scheme that, I'd tease him about it a little bit. And like all these different coaches are teaching your scheme across the NFL. And he's like, you know what, he's downplayed it. He's like, there's only so many coverages. There are only so many fronts. Like the scheme stuff is, I think, overstated. And so I kind of turned that around on him yesterday. And I said, all right, you've said that there's only so many coverages and so many schemes. So what separates one defensive play caller from another? And here is Mike's response. Defensive play caller from another.
It's a good question. Just outed myself. I plead the fifth. Look, I don't know. I mean, I've been around great play callers on those staffs, and I think what's interesting is the guys have different styles. I think as a play caller, you do have to learn your style of like what you're trying to create, and I think that's really important. Obviously, you're taking advantage of the guys like that give you a best chance to make a play and let them do things that they do well. Again, there's a spectrum to this thing. I mean, you can try to be in the perfect call all the time, which is probably not the way to go. You can be in one call the whole game. That's probably not the way to go either. It's always going to be some sort of blend, and I think that's based off of just your personal philosophy and sticking to it, and making sure that your process kind of follows that so you're not all over the place. But it's an interesting question. I probably need to think about it more honestly. I know what works for us is just trying to get our guys in position to have success consistently, however that comes to life.
The good stuff there from Mike, and you never know with any of these guys, like if they're going to be in the mood to kind of really take a question like that and think about it. And you can always tell with Mike, he actually wants to give thoughtful answers to questions that he thinks are reasonable questions to be asked. He'll give you different answers if he doesn't. And this is a huge part of this game, and honestly, the future of this team, the near-term future of this team, because Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, they're made men in the sense that everybody already has nothing but respect for their play calling propensity. Now, there's questions about Kyle Shanahan as an overall coach. There's questions about whether he can handle, closing out games, big games. Like there's all sorts of things there. But no one doubts that Kyle Shanahan is one of the smartest, most savvy offensive planners and play callers in the sport. It's cool to hear from Matt today that he actually has used week 1 to intentionally throw off future film reviewers, where they ran only zone scheme in the first week so that their second game of the season, which was against their big rival, they could unveil their gap scheme stuff and just basically shock that team and have an advantage. So this first week is wild in that it's, you know, it's in one sense, you know, the least amount you're ever going to know about the team you're going against. In another sense, you're going against a division rival and you should have the most information about them compared to almost anyone else you will face this season. So what that then comes down to is, how does that person, once the game starts going, which play caller is able to adjust, learn, and then exploit what's going on in the game? And it's not just a matter of play calling. Obviously, the players have to execute, the players have to play well. All that stuff matters a ton. But this is one of the reasons you hired Mike Macdonald, because I believe, and I think others believe, he will end up in the same category as Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, except on the other side of the ball, where people fear having to face him. And one of the things I shared yesterday, which I know riled a lot of 49ers fans, which warms my heart, was Brock Purdy's history against Mike Macdonald defenses. And they're like, well, you can't include the Baltimore game because that was you guys don't have the Baltimore defense. And I'm like, well, yes and no. Like, the Baltimore defense wasn't the Baltimore defense the first 8 games that Mike Macdonald was there. And over the last 8 games of his first season in 2022, they got to be pretty darn good. And then in 2023, they were the best defense in the NFL. I'm not so sure that won't be the script that gets followed this year. For different reasons, I'm happy to share, but I'm not coming into this season thinking the Seahawks are going to have the number 1 defense in the NFL. But I do think that Mike Macdonald has shown a propensity to frustrate some Kyle Shanahan offenses, whether it's Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan or Mike McDaniel. After the first game against him where Mike McDaniel got his number, Mike Macdonald adjusted and shut him down after that. He shut down Bobby Slowick and CJ Stroud a couple times the first year, where Bobby Slowick was a super hot coordinator and is definitely a disciple of that scheme, and so on and so forth. So I think there is something there. And look, Brock Purdy had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions the last time he played in Lumen Field last season against Mike Macdonald and his defense. But if you go back, we looked at that film together last year. That was Rayshon Jenkins taking a bad angle and just playing a bad game. That was Mike Morris and Cam. Oh my gosh. Cam, not Fleming. I've already forgot his name. He was a defensive tackle that they drafted in the 4th round, I think a few years ago. Anyway, playing and being completely overpowered. That was, Mike Jarrell or Stone Forsythe at right tackle. Like, there was a lot of things that were different about that Seahawks team. That was, I think, still Tyrell Dodson playing that. I think that might have even been Jerome Baker playing in that game. There are a lot of differences in that game versus the Seahawks defense that went down in San Francisco and held them to 17 points and did things to Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy that honestly haven't been done up until that point. So I do think it matters. And I think we're fortunate as Seahawks fans to have Mike Macdonald doing some of the play calling. So there's also been these questions about MVS and the impact there. And you heard from Matt Hasselbeck that, like, they thought somebody gave away plays in one of theirs. I'm going to have to search around because I didn't do this ahead of time for the sound, but I think this is early on. Let me pull this up for you guys and play Mike's reaction to me asking about MVS. Change for you with MVS going down to the 49ers. Does that change anything on offense for you guys?
Officially, it changes everything. We're going to change all the calls. Yeah. I mean, look, he's a really smart player. He's probably going to give him information. That stuff happens all the time. Some things you can take into account. Some things you got to call it and haul it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think he's acknowledging that they will give them some information. But here's the thing, like almost the opposite of the play calling conversation. Even if you know exactly what's coming, it's about the players and the execution. Now, it can help, but you're not going to know. I mean, you're literally not going to know exactly the play that's coming. You might know some of the audibles that might happen. You might know some of the keys, but it's still going to come down to Gray Zabel blocking Kalia Davis or Abe Lucas blocking Nick Bosa or whatever the combination might be. And just like back in the day when everybody knew that Mike Holmgren was going to call a running play to the left behind Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson, you still had to stop it. Today's version of that, everybody knows what the Eagles are doing on 3rd and short, 4th and goal. You still have to stop Jalen Hurts and that tush push, and almost nobody has found a way to do that. So it's not always about being like some expert play caller. A lot of times it's just whether you've got the horses to pull it off. And so I, continue to be pretty dismissive, I guess, about the impact of MVS being down there. Now, there is some news that happened yesterday on the 49ers front. Juwan Jennings was back. Dominic Pooney was back. Those are the two big names from my perspective that we've been watching. We won't get official practice report designations until tomorrow, Wednesday. So we'll start getting that. But the expectation should be that both of those guys are going to play. And so you'll have a Juwan Jennings and a Ricky Pearsall wide receiver crew. And that's pretty good. Like, I think that's them having their full complement. Dominic Pooney might end up being their best offensive lineman this year, depending on how Trent Williams kind of age degradation of his performance shows up. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of like, good. I know there's some folks that are like, yeah, man, let's hope they're all out and we can sneak out a win. You're only going to be able to see how good you are if you're facing teams that are good and teams that are the best versions of themselves. Now, the first week of the season, I feel a little bit less strongly about that notion because, let's be honest, I mean, the first week is just, it lies a lot. And there's things about that. I mean, the 2013 Seahawks team barely beat Carolina 12-7 on a late Jermaine Kearse touchdown. They were much, much better than that Carolina Panthers team, but in that week, they weren't. We heard Matt Hasselbeck talk about the other Super Bowl team in 2005 that played in Jacksonville and lost 26-14. They were definitely a much better team than that Jaguars team, but not in week 1. So some of this is a little bit different for week 1, but at the same time, wouldn't it feel better for the Seahawks to walk out of week 1 with a victory over the 49ers, knowing that Juwan Jennings and Dominic Pooney played, than that they didn't, and everyone's like, oh, you just got them when they all were out? Now, I will tell you this. If the Seahawks win that game, there will still be excuses for the 49ers, from the 49ers fans of, well, you got us when Brandon Ayuk's not here, Malik Mustafa's not here. They'll come up with things, and that's fine. Like, they can cope however they want. At that point, all you care about is getting the win. But as far as Pooney and especially Juwan Jennings, I think that makes this a tougher game for Seattle for sure, especially the Juwan Jennings piece, because Juwan Jennings is Brock Purdy's top 3rd down target, and he made some really tough contested catches against the Seahawks in both games, but especially the final game that the Seahawks won. That game wouldn't have been close if Juwan Jennings wasn't playing. Like, they wouldn't have scored. I don't know if they would have scored a touchdown if Juwan Jennings didn't play in that game, because he willed their way to 3rd and long conversions multiple times. So, yeah, that's kind of the piece there. There's one other sound. I'm going to have to try to find this. So forgive me as I kind of scrub through and look for it. But I asked Mike Macdonald, what's the first thing that you look at in game film after a practice or after a game? And I thought this was interesting to hear from Mike Macdonald. I think it was toward the end. So let me see if I can find. He's going to be looking to his right because I'm on his right. So we'll see if I get this in here. Let's see if this is the right one.
Or after a game on
Yeah, nailed it.
Well, after practice, we just watch it straight through, and then we watch the one-on-ones, all the concept stuff after. Me personally, I'm looking for like more than one. It's like what deserves a defensive meeting talking point. It's probably more than one position group that's affected. Normally, that's some sort of structural thing or just making sure we're playing something the same way. Everything else, we get on the same page with the position coaches, and they can handle it within their group. But that's only my rule of thumb of whether or not it needs to be talked about. After a game, I like to watch as a head coach. I like to watch it straight through, not like one phase at a time. It's just what I prefer as the game unfolds.
I thought that was interesting. And I at one of these points, I'm going to get a chance to sit down with Mike and we'll go through this in more detail. But I find it really interesting. That they watch one-on-ones that basically was talking about that there's certain times where there's a structural issue and he's going to actually have to talk across position groups as opposed to just handling it with a specific coach it and let the position coaches handle it themselves. Sometimes they need to get the group together to talk through it. So anyway, I found that interesting. Maybe you guys didn't. I want to play some other sound for you that I want to react to. And I think there's some super chats I'll get to in a second. This is just, I think, capturing a little bit of the perspectives that are still out there from smart people about this Seahawks team. And the Athletic Football Show did their NFC West preview, which was really good. Highly recommend you listen to it. It's like 2 hours. It was good. It was really good. I always love that stuff. We'll try to get Robert on here at some point and Derek, and we'll talk through some things. But this was them answering the question posed: what does a successful season mean to what is a successful season for the Seahawks? And I'll play the sound for you here. It's a couple minutes, so you guys will be listening with me, and then I'll share some thoughts afterwards. Here we go.
Speaking of, what is success, Dave, for the 2025 Seattle Seahawks?
Can tell I moved to Chicago because I got Notre Dame on the brain. But what I want the Seattle Seahawks to do more than anything is wake up the echoes of the Legion of Boom. Make me think of those Seattle teams. I have a vivid memories, Robert, and we started covering the league right around the same time, like 11, 12 probably. I have memories of like I would be in a hotel getting ready to go to a game, and I would like turn on the TV and Seattle's on my TV, and I'm like, holy, they did what? Who are these guys? Who's this Richard Sherman fella? They beat the shit out of who? That's what I want from the Seahawks. And I don't need them. Obviously, the Legion of Boom got to such a crazy height. I don't need them to be that. I don't need them to be arguably the best defense of the modern era. But win games with your defense. Like, be at the front of the recap shows because of something that the defense did. Like, I want Spoon and Reek and like all these guys, DeMarcus Lawrence, Byron Murphy. I want them like celebrating in the end zone after something crazy that they did and like being a unit that's going to lead the team. And if they do that, then the win-loss success will come.
Yeah, I do think they have those personalities on defense. I think Spoon is at the center of that, but I do think that at least they have that level of energy on defense. Whether it comes to fruition is the question.
To me, in like a kind of abstract way, like I think it's just like, yeah, the defense continues winning, and then there's proof of concept on the offense. So like that to me is like you kind of have the season that Denver had last year. And obviously that was a little bit different in terms of like have the feeling of it because it was rookie quarterback instead of like paying Sam Darnold whatever you paid him. But if your defense is top 5 and winning you games week in and out, and then the offense, maybe it's not perfect, but there's proof of concept and then reason to believe going forward. And then we start talking about them the way that we're talking about Denver this time next year, that is success to me.
Yeah, if Sam Darnold is an afterthought because the defense is that good, that would be really fun.
Yeah, I think becoming one of those defenses, proving that your experiment with the offensive system and tapping into this version of it was correct, and establishing like 4 or 5 dudes you can really build around moving forward, that I think almost accidentally makes you a team pushing for the playoffs. And so the win-loss record is less important here, but I think those are the components to me that qualify as success for the Seahawks team.
I will throw in the caveat. Geno Smith never had a losing record, and we don't have to relitigate the decision to trade him. And maybe it was time for a change of scenery for everybody, but Geno Smith got the Seahawks to a winning record. So I don't think it's unreasonable. Like if you went down this path, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they could at least go 9-8.
What the hell? What the hell? Like, I have a ton of respect for those guys. And I was listening to that last night as I was walking Finn, and man, I just found myself thinking, I was like nodding along to a lot of what they're saying. Yeah, defense needs to prove that it's really an elite defense. Yep, agree. They need to find 4 or 5 guys that are dudes, not just good players, but that they're going to break out and be absolute game changers. Like, yeah, the Seahawks need some blue chip. Like, yeah, absolutely. That's a part of defining success. Proof of concept for the offense. Yep. They need to figure out that this change is on the right direction. The offense has to look like it's going in the right way, and that this was the right decision to kind of bring in Clint Kubiak in this style. Yes, yes, yes. Like all yeses. And then they're like, if all those things happen, then maybe they can go 9-8. Maybe they can sneak into the playoffs. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? How can you like, if you listen to the rest of that show and you listen to them go through the gaping holes on the roster for the 49ers, the gaping holes for a team that won 6 games last year and did very little to really address some of those holes on defense, especially. You talk about the Cardinals, who I happen to believe like there's a very logical path here to where that defense takes a step forward. The offense is top 12 like it was last year, and they're a division winner or a playoff team. But they did 0 on the offense. Like the Cardinals added nothing to their offensive side at all. And you talk about, well, we won't go through it all. But anyway, you go through all that, and they're like, they go through all the 49ers stuff. And like, yeah, like 12 wins, win a couple games, NFC championship. Like that's success. Or, you know, I'm like, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Either I am set up for an absolute learning lesson of just completely seeing things incorrectly about the Seahawks, or everybody else is absolutely not thinking, like their brains stop working when they start talking about the Seahawks. Like if you have a top defense, like 1 to 3 is what they were talking, like 1 to 5 at worst, like top 3 defense, and your offense is working, and you have 4 or 5 dudes, and you have this schedule, and you went 4-2 against the same division last year, and you should have gone 5-1. I'm telling you, this like 12 wins should be success for this team. They won 10 games last year with an offense that was awful. 12 wins is success this year. Winning a playoff game is success this year. And maybe I'm setting the bar too high. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe we should be saying, well, you know, this is you got rid of your quarterback and your most heralded receiver, and you know, it's a new coordinator and a new scheme, and it'll take some time, and your offensive line is super young, and maybe that's all true. Maybe, you know, we're a year away in the receiver room from having what we really need. Maybe that's all the case. That's not what I see. I see a team that its floor is what they were last year. That's their floor. And they won 10 games last year against a much more difficult schedule. And with, to be honest, problems in that coaching staff. I don't think Ryan Grubb and Mike Macdonald were getting along or seeing eye to eye for a lot of that season. Clint Kubiak and Mike Macdonald are thick as thieves pretty quickly. You can see the difference. So I know it's a broken record, but I have to keep sharing this stuff with you guys of like, man, what am I missing? Because I don't see it. I don't see, if everything goes right, the Seahawks win 9 games. They win 1 fewer game than last year. If everything goes right. Wow. It really sends me. All right. A couple super chats here. Garth Knight says, number 8. What is your favorite Mike Macdonald song? Well, sorry, probably not going to take many questions for my guests while they're on the show, but I appreciate it. And we'll see if Matt will have an answer another time. Kyle from South Park says, does number 8 claim Seattle as his only team, unlike 25? I will say this. If I am going to ask questions of my guests, I will not be asking gotcha questions where they could potentially say something that, makes a different player like Richard Sherman get upset. So I appreciate the thought, but that would not be one of the questions I probably would ask Matt. I appreciate the super chats for sure. So folks, let me reset it. Tonight at 5:00 p.m. Pacific, look on the Seahawks Collective channel, different channel, but different show. Michael Sean Dugar, myself, Rob Staten, Annabelle Hasselbeck. We will be talking about expectations for this season. We'll be talking about this game. So tonight at 5. Tomorrow morning, I will be doing my first tail of the tape of the 2025 season, where we will compare the different units of the Seahawks and the 49ers, the key matchups, where there's advantages, where there are potential weak spots. Can't wait. Can't wait for that. So that'll be tomorrow morning. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time, Evan Hill, Jeff Simmons, and I will be back to preview this 49ers game. We'll give you our predictions for the score of that game. Friday, there might be some fun stuff Thursday. I haven't locked that down. Friday, we are going to welcome in Dave Bowling and Mike Sando for our Friday roundtable, which will be great as always. And then Saturday, Seahawks Saturday with Jeff Simmons. Sunday, man, it is game day, and we'll see about maybe we'll do another pregame show from the streets, getting ready to prepare for that first game. Might not as well. We will definitely do a post-game show afterward, and my goodness, there is a lot going on. I will tell you this. I think we have found who is getting the tickets to the game. I'll share a little bit more about that on another show, but we are still within range of getting to 25,000 subscribers on YouTube. Need about 700 folks to subscribe on YouTube, and I will be giving away additional seats to the Seahawks versus 49ers. If we don't make it for this game, I'll think about doing something for a future game, or maybe we'll do a jersey or something else. So let's get to 25,000 subs and keep this community growing. If you haven't already joined at patreon.com/hawkblogger, what are you waiting for? This is going to be a great year hanging out together. It gets you ad-free audio to this show. It gets you access to the Discord channel where you can hang out. We've got hundreds of folks in there. Only rule is that you're good and nice and you treat people well. So, it's a really friendly community, great place to hang out, talk Seahawks and other sports as well. Also gets you verified over at hbtix.com, hbtix.com. That's the place you can go to sell your tickets as a Seahawks fan to Seahawks fans. If you want to buy Seahawks tickets from a Seahawks fan, that's the place to go. No fees. I don't charge anything. All you got to do is sign up. Vouch for people if you buy tickets from them and they're legit. Vouch for people if you sell tickets to somebody who's a Seahawks fan, and take the time required to make sure that you are selling to a Seahawks fan and that they are only taking Seahawks fans with you. The whole reason I am paying money for this service to be out there is to make sure we get as many Seahawks fans in seats as possible. So please use it appropriately to make sure that your tickets go to a Seahawks fan, and sign up. Like, there are tons of 49ers Seahawks seats available over at HB Ticks, and I'll be continuing the weekly emails that go out to people on there showing you all the tickets that are available. So head on over, get those seats, and let's get you to watch what is going to be a absolutely crucial game for the Seahawks this season. All right, everybody. That will do it for this episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Take care.